Let me ask you this. What does the word legendary mean to you? Does it invoke something or someone with a high status? Something to fear or look up to? Does it represent unmatched power, unspoken greatness, that if you are legendary, would that mean you are a league above everyone else? Miscrits is a game that has multiple rarities of Miscrits.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man? Get your ass on, man.
And at the tippy top of that stand legendaries, the most sought after Miscrits, ranging from powerful beasts of nature, masters of their own elements, entities who can decide the fate of any battle, and keeper.
Bruh.
These are what the people of Miscria are after, amongst other things. But what about in the opposite end of that? The rarity everyone is painfully aware of.
Cue that boy!
The rarity where most would just scoff at and move on to the next rare, epic, or exotic Miscrit. I'm talking, of course, about common Miscrits. And I'm gonna be answering the question, can you beat every boss in Miscrits using only common Miscrits? The rules will be straightforward.
Rule number 1!
I can only use unique common Miscrits, so no teams of like 4 flues or something like that.
And rule number 2!
I have to catch every common available in the area before moving to the next major area. Now, to clarify, I only need to catch 1 copy of the Miscrit. I don't need to level them up to their final stages. That's for a different challenge video. Wink wink, nudge nudge.
And rule number
3. Platinum training and relics are allowed. Platinum training is using 1 platinum every level to get another bonus stat. Relics are essentially equipment items that grant additional stats to your Miscrits. Each Miscrits has 4 relic slots. Well, technically they have 8, which are unlocked as you level them up. Relics are divided into 4 level categories, with each relic tier granting more bonus stats. Once a Miscrit equips a relic, they can't unequip it. They can change the relic they are equipped with by either placing a new relic into the second slot of the same relic tier, or by simply destroying the old one by placing the new relic on top of it. Because of how strong relics make a Miscrit, I will basically only consider equipping relics if I am really stuck at a boss, or if the only solution for a boss to be being beaten is by rolling better stats. And we all know how painful rebonusing Miscrits can get. With that out of the way, we can finally get this show on the road. Getting woken up from our dream of being smothered by a group of bunnakins, a forest guard gives us our first common Miscrit, Flu. Now, if you see my first ever challenge video on Miscrits, by the way, thanks for getting that to like 10k views, much love, you will know that Flu is actually pretty solid common, being able to solo all of the forest bosses while also being a pretty decent common for the rest of the game. I'll be using Flu to manhandle these bosses. I'll essentially just be skipping over the first 4 fights. It's not really necessary for this challenge video. I mean, it's forest. Are you really interested in that? During which I've also caught every single common in their respective areas. And it was at the 3rd boss where I also decided to bring back another self-imposed rule. And that is to try to get the best possible stat for the common. Why the fuck did I do that to myself? So after 2-shotting the nature elementum, it's off to Mount Gemma. Of course, I needed to catch all of the other commons in the newly opened areas in Hidden Forest and the Mansion, a lot of which will be very useful for this challenge. Some notable Miscrits being Lavarilla, Tongutail, Visp, Narlope, and Nessie. Making sure I caught every common in their respective areas, I spent a long while afterwards hunting for those perfectly statted Miscrits. I then went on to Mount Gemma to start capturing the commons there, while also leveling up the Miscrits that will be used for the upcoming bosses. Most notably Nessie for being my Bright Lights user, and Visp for being my Wind Miscrit for the Earth Elementum. I caught and leveled up some commons that I felt would also put in some decent work against some specific bosses, like Drilldent and Equestrian, but I'll elaborate more once we get to those bosses. The 3 Gemma Magicites aren't really anything to write home about, so why don't we just take a look at the Earth Elementum fight instead? It did get a small update to now he has one move that has a normal landing accuracy, but the strategy still remains the same. reduce his accuracy, and use wind Miscrits that have fixed damage in their attacks. With the Earth Elementum down, 3 areas have been opened: the shores, the Caves of Mists, and the Shack. Now, to shake things up, I decided to beat the Shack boss first before going to the shores. I'll also beat the Cave boss too before going to the shores, but my focus first will be on the Shack boss. Now let me explain the fight. This is Illumination, the late wife of the famous travel agency adventurer Jerome. She opens her fight by applying 100 turns of Ethereal onto herself. What does Ethereal do, you may ask? Well, it blocks all forms of true damage. What counts as true damage, you may ask? Well, let me list it off for you. Fixed damage, fixed poison, bleeding, switch curse, lifesteal, and barb. Oh, that doesn't sound too bad, right? Well, it wouldn't if all of the good Miscrits didn't rely on 90% of those. However, Ethereal does not block damage over time effects that scale with attack power, meaning its damage is based on the active Miscrit's physical or elemental attack stat. But this doesn't mean that you should go in there and spam her with attack power dots, for you see, she also has a cleanse that will trigger if she does suffer from those dots. Not only does it cleanse her from all negative effects, it will also heal her by a good amount, cause why the hell not, right? She also has the standard super buff that increases all of her stats by 25 if she receives a negative 15 to any stat. Now let's move on to her attacking moves. Yes, that was just her supportive moves. First, she has an attack that will apply bleeding to the active Miscrit, force switch them out, and deal a good amount of damage against the Miscrit that will be switched in. Another attack that hits hard and applies a physical damage over time effect. Another attack that hits hard again but also applies anti-heal if the active Miscrit hasn't cleansed the bleeding from the previous attack. And finally, her most dangerous attack, a 5 multi-hit attack that steals 8 HP per hit. She can only use it every 3 turns, and she will never use it if your active Miscrit also manages to have the ethereal buff on themselves. So as you can see, this boss fight has been crafted to be a bit more painful compared to the other boss fights. And that's why I refuse to continue the low rank video, cause a lot of my Miscrits that I got for that challenge used fixed damage. I'll basically have to do another attempt for that another time. But anyways, it can get so much worse. This will be one of the few fights that I'll be stuck on for a long while, but I do have some ideas on how to beat her. For starters, most of her attacks deal physical damage, so Miscrits with high physical defense are a good option against her. Additionally, I'll need Miscrits that can heal in order to prevent the bleed stacks from needing to hurt my Miscrits. Her main threatening attack is Soul Siphon, the multi-hit one that lifesteals. Each hit can actually miss if she suffers from a minus accuracy debuff, and we can completely prevent it from being used if we can get a common that has Ethereal on their final hit. At first I decided to switch out Nessie for another Bright Lights user, and since Nessie's final can't also heal against Ilil's Ethereal buff. A common that I found was Static Cat. It had a heal on final, which was great, and Bright Lights to lower the boss's accuracy for Soul Siphon. A major problem, however, with Static Cat is its low physical defense, which meant that it can't take enough hits to beat the fight. Next was trying to get a Miscrit that can handle Ilil's Soul Siphon without needing Bright Lights. Luckily, there was literally a perfect common within the very area she's in. Makura. Makura has great physical defense and Ethereal on the final hit. However, with its poor HP stat and mid-ass elemental attack, it also proved to be a waste of time to get, so it was back to the drawing board. I tried Cerberus since it had a pretty good nuke for a final that also applies Stat Chaos. Stat Chaos just means that it reduces all of the Miscrit stats by 5. But that final also had a cooldown, and its poor defense stats meant that I can't really use it more than twice. I gave Peekly a shot. It didn't really work out despite it having pretty good stats and a decent final that has a heal on it. It took a long while before I finally found which common that I can use, those being Flu, Lavarilla, and Tongue-Tail. Now I'm just missing one more Miscrit to serve as my lead for the fight. I scoured the Miscripedia, looked up guides. There wasn't really a lot of guides, until finally I saw it. Craggy. Craggy has a hard-hitting final, no CD. A little bit of a scuff accuracy, but I can work with that with enough attempts. Decent attack, okay physical defense, and most importantly, Bright Lights. He doesn't have a heal, but with the amount of runs that I've had, I found out that the bleed damage was far more worth eating instead of the physical dot that she applies. These 4 was getting really close to taking her down, but she just barely lives with like 100 more HP or so. So I decided to finally start platinum trading my Miscrits. I decided to pick 2, Lavarilla and Tongue-Tail. I also decided to start using potions as well since I clearly need all the help I can get for this fight. Oh my god, this woman just won't die. It's like she's edging me. It took many more attempts until finally this run happened. Finally done with the shack boss fight, the basement and lower basement opens up for more commons. I am aiming to get one common in particular as preparation for the moon boss fight. That common being Avarice. Avarice is one of the few commons to have a noticeably big additional fixed damage on their final attack. And it also has a really solid elemental attack to go along with it. And with Singularitas being a damage race fight, I'll need all of the commons with the most amount of damage in their attacks. I first went to the Cave of Mist to catch the commons there and beat Elena in one attempt. Now, I also decided to give the moon boss a try as well. I'll still progress with the shore bosses, but I won't be saving the moon boss for last this video. We all know what's waiting at the end. Using the platinum I saved up throughout the challenge for the ticket to the moon, it still baffles to me that we can breathe up here. Now, I also caught the Miscrits within the first area of the moon. Can't catch the ones in the moon cave since that only unlocks after Singularitas is defeated. Some of the Miscrits I've previously caught will finally get more use now because they have fixed damage in their attacks. These will be Vis, Narlope, Nessie, and Equestrian. Now, I will still be replacing one of them with Avarice since Avarice deals way more damage compared to these other four. I've also plat-trained Nessie and Equestrian in hopes of getting more bonus stats allocated to HP, Elemental Attack, and Elemental Defense. Next was getting that perfect statted Avarice. Of course, with my platinum dwindling down a bit, I decided to engage with a new feature of this version of the game. That being Miscrit Collections. Talking with the Miscrit Collector, she will have a set of one-time completion collections which she will ask for a specific set of Miscrits that you can submit in exchange for some juicy rewards. Ranging from level up tokens, the tokens you can use to completely skip normal wild leveling. That's what I used at the start of this challenge. Miscrit Crates, which contain 5 random Miscrits, ranging from common to legendary. The better quality crates contain better chances of higher rarity Miscrits. Swap Tickets, an item that you can use to swap the 2 bonus stats of a Miscrit. To emphasize, it only swaps the 2 bonus stats. It doesn't change the color of the stat. Some relic sacks, which contain 3 random relics from the lowest relic tier to the highest. There's also gems, which can be used to get relics or specific Miscrits. And finally, Platinum. Of course, I only got the collections that involved commons. After getting all of these prep work done, oh by the way, I got an NX to replace my Narlope. It didn't really do much after the nerfs. I can finally get demolished by Singularitas still. So I've hit another wall. This time, I was really mad about it, cause I had so much preparation and it still wasn't enough. Because of that, I took out my frustrations on the first Shores boss. I still wasn't satisfied, so I decided to beat the second Shores boss too. She did require me to find a nature common so that she can't use her water attacks against me, and also because that water attack buffs all of her stats. I also needed that nature common to have a move that can reduce her defenses while also having negate. Pestling from the Shack Attic was the common that I found useful. Beating those two up, I decided to just finish all of the Magicite bosses. The third one did require me to get a Miscrit that had bleeding as my sustained damage over time effect over the course of its fight. So this required me to go back to Gemma to get Owly. With Owly leveled up, the boss falls down easily. Once I've gotten that out of my system, I've tried more ways in hopes of beating Singularitas till the reality set in. My Miscrits just don't have the stats for the fight. So Singularitas will be the first ever boss I'll have to use relics on. Now, before y'all start jumping me in the comments because that's a cop-out thing to do, I will only use as little relics as possible for the team. I'm not gonna go in there with each Miscrit having 4 relics. Just enough to make the fight beatable. Of course, that means I'll be using higher tier relics to minimize the amount of relics I need. My target Miscrits to relic will be Nessie, Avarice, and Enix. So with the gems I've gained from those collections, it still wasn't enough. Oh, you thought it'd be down by now? Yeah, me too. Turns out, most Miscrit bosses will have their AI prioritize its highest damaging attack. So, let's say your Miscrit just so happens to have high enough elemental defense that the boss can decide that it's much more worth using their physical attack against it. which let's say it also happens to heal them for a big amount of HP. Well, it would be advisable to have your Miscrit not have that high of an elemental defense, right? So what now? Well, I decided to wait for a specific week-long event to happen. That event being the item collection events. This event allows players to collect event currency to exchange for a plethora of useful items, most notably in my case, swap tickets. I need to get those tickets in order to swap around my Avarice's elemental attack with its elemental defense. With that finally out of the way, let's see the Space Squid go down. Singularitas is finally down. That means the Moon Cave is now unlocked. There isn't really any common worth using in here, but at least we'll have a more complete collection. That just leaves one more boss before we can set foot on Volcano Island, the Wind Elementum. Compared to Singularitas, this fight is a joke. Granted, I am still using the relic commons for it, but cry me a river if that irks you the wrong way. I brought out Ali to use bleeding against the boss. It can heal, so it might not be worth it, but with just one attempt, I can make it happen. With the Wind Elementum's defeat, Volcano Island finally opens up. Now let me just take this moment to say it is a miracle that Miscrits managed to crawl its way back from the dead into our current year. When it shut down way back when, I was pretty sad about it, but I eventually moved on. So to see it up and running and better than ever, it almost brought a tear to my eye. So to the team who kept this game running and to the artists that added brand new Miscrits that everyone loves, thanks. It's not happening.
Kill yourself!
So the jungle. If you remember in the old days, Volcano Island simply reused Sunfall Kingdom bosses. But this time around, they're completely new. And what better way to introduce these new Magicite bosses with none other than the Magicite Warden. The Warden is painfully straightforward, but it also managed to beat the brakes out of a lot of unprepared players the first couple of times. The Warden only has one really threatening move, Mace Eraser. It's a move that hits hard, reduces your accuracy by 10, and heals him for 10 HP. This single skill makes this fight infinitely harder than it should. I actually struggled quite a bit with him. But that is when I remembered something. Most Miscrit bosses will have their AI prioritize its highest damaging attack. So, let's say your Miscrit just so happens to have high enough elemental defense that the boss can decide that it's much more worth using their physical attack against it. That also works in the opposite. If the Miscrit's physical defense is high enough, then the boss will prioritize its elemental attacks instead. That means if I can find a Miscrit that has a high enough physical defense, I can completely remove Mace Eraser from the fight. And wouldn't you know it, Tongu Tail is perfectly suited for this job. I had Avarice as my last Miscrit in case Tongu dies before the boss goes down. So, let's see how this goes. The Warden goes down, that means the next area is opened alongside the Magicite Herald. The Herald fight is a bit RNG. Well, it's a lot of RNG. She has two attacks that has a chance of putting your Miscrits to sleep or confusing them. And unlike the Warden, she won't be manipulated by our Miscrits' defense stats. She will always prioritize using her spam attacks. Another thing is, once her HP is low enough, she will use an Enrage buff, granting plus 40 to all of her stats, cleansing her from all debuffs, and healing her for 40 HP as well. That means she's hitting you way harder, you're doing less damage against her, and you're more likely to be confused or to be put to sleep. It took a lot of brainstorming to figure out a way to beat her, but I managed to come up with one. Have a Miscrit that can set up bright lights and lower her stats at the start. Have a secondary Miscrit that has a heal over time effect and that can tank her hits. A third Miscrit with bleed, and a nuker as my fourth. Staticat, Tongu Tail, Owly, and Avarice. There's still a lot of RNG in this fight, so the obvious straightforward solution to it is to simply buy an immunity relic. Now, I only get one, okay? So don't castrate me just yet. Now, let's see how this fight ends. With the Herald's defeat, now our run hits a massive wall. The Magicite Gormand. Gormand hits hard and applies a lot of true damage to your Miscrits. Poisons, bleed, and switch curse. Oh, he applies true damage? Well, I'll just use an ethereal Miscrit against him. Well, he has an attack that removes all buffs on your Miscrit and deals 80 fixed damage against your Miscrit if you apply ethereal. So no ethereals, okay? He also has a heal over time effect that can sustain himself against you. Additionally, he has a lot of defense. Like, a lot of defense. Allegedly, he has over 1,000,000 defense. So raw damage output is pretty much useless against him. What isn't useless against him, however, is true damage. So you can use poisons, switch curse, and fixed damage as your answer against him. I'll also need those Miscrits to be able to constantly sustain themselves against all of those true damage that he himself applies. So this is it. This is where the challenge ends. There isn't a common that can do all of that. That's what all of you think. You see, back at the very start of this challenge, I caught a Kraken for this very fight. Why Kraken? Well, thanks to a strategy popularized by Weo, an admin in the Miscrits official Discord server, he showcased how Kraken can easily handle Gormand. All you need to do first is reduce Gormand's attack stat all the way to 0 so that he deals no additional damage on top of the true damage that he applies. Now it just becomes a slow dance of whittling him down till he dies. Now I could show you the entire fight at like 10 times speed, but instead I'll showcase what I was waffling about over the course of that fight to keep myself entertained. I've had this idea for a bit, okay? It's about making a tier list on which legendary I think would take the longest to shower. Like from the very top where they spend like 3 hours under that shower head, acting all mysterious and depressed. They're like aura farming in the mist of the shower. And there's at the bottom where if they set foot in the shower, they just die. For sure, like the Blighteds will be in there, like Blighted Flu and Blighted Flower Petal. For sure, they don't shower. What do I think the next area is gonna be? I honestly don't think it's gonna be Monk's Mountain. It's pretty unlikely they release a massive area right next to each other. If I really had to guess when Monk's Mountain is gonna be out, I'd expect it to be like October or something. What I do expect is like a travel agency area. Maybe Enchanted Tiki Island or Emerald Isle as like the next travel agency, because it's been a long while since we've gotten another travel agency area. They're taking their time with releasing the second jungle legendary, huh? If my guess is on who the next one will be, my guess is it's gonna be a new one. I don't kind of expect them to release a another OG Miscrit, since we already have Bunnakin. My guess it's gonna be a new legendary. But to throw it out there, if it is an OG legend, my guess it's probably either gonna be Dark Bloombat or Light Lavarilla. I'm leaning more into hoping that Light Lavarilla is the next one, because, you know, Lavarilla is our boy. He's there. He was there when we beat Nox's ass. So if it's Light Lavarilla, I'll enjoy it. But, you know, if it's Dark Bloombat, it's whatever. I've never really had an attachment to Dark Bloombat. Sometimes I think, why do I draw these things? Like, there has to be more that I can do, right? But then I come to my senses and realize, this is what I am. I want to see some more of older Facebook games be brought back to life. And I know there's like a lot of them, like a lot of resurrection projects going on. Like that, what was it called? Dungeon Rampage. I think Dungeon Rampage is out on Steam right now, but last I checked, it wasn't really doing too hot. If you ask me, a specific game that I really want to see come back is it's Backyard Monsters. It's such a shame that Backyard Monsters lost to Clash of Clans in the mobile game race, because if you look back at a lot of old Backyard Monsters footage, first of all, please forgive the quality. It's like old 2012, 2013 quality videos. It's gonna suck, but the one thing you'll notice, a lot of things in Backyard Monsters, a lot of it was copied by Clash of Clans. Like, if I remember correctly, like, the tutorial from Backyard Monsters was straight up ripped off by Clash of Clans. After a few more minutes of me just waffling about stuff, Gorman finally falls. The final area of the jungle opens up, and now the water elementum awaits. Capturing all of the comments first, of course. Now, if Singularitas was a damage race, water elementum is a defense check. If your Miscrits can sustain themselves long enough against the boss, it's pretty easy. Finding which Miscrits that can handle that is the issue for me. But let me elaborate first. The water elementum opens the fight with Reckless Magical Implosion. It deals some water damage against your Miscrit, it increases all of the water elementum's attack by 50, and applies 6 turns of Ethereal onto itself. But the most important part of this skill is that it deals 100 fixed damage to the water elementum itself first. Similar to Gormand, the water elementum has something along the lines of 1,000,000 defense. And since it has Ethereal, using true damage is useless. Bosses can't be purged of their buffs, so that Ethereal is staying for the full 6 turns. With 600 HP, we need the water elementum to do Reckless Magical Implosion 6 times to win the fight. But with it gradually increasing its attacks with each use of it, alongside its 3 other attacks, it proved to be quite the challenge. 2 of its attacks deal normal water damage. One applies Disease, a brand new damage over time effect that scales with an elemental attack and changes its damage type based on the active Miscrit. In this case, water. Disease can be cleansed if the Miscrit afflicted by it heals, and the other attack simply applies an additional 30 flat fix poison. The water elementum will always use those 2 one after another after using a Reckless Magical Implosion and after its other attack, Toss and Turn. Toss and Turn simply force switches your Miscrit out multiple times and paralyzing your Miscrit at the end. Miscrits has a battle mechanic that punishes the player if they switch too many times in a battle. This means that the water elementum will also chip off HP from all of your Miscrits, even if they're not active. After another set of those 2 attacks that applies Disease and Poison, the water elementum will do Reckless Magical Implosion once more. For this fight, I need to survive at least 36 turns in order to win. My very first clear of the water elementum was simply due to having a lot of defense and HP recovery on my Miscrits. Having it also fully relicked on each of them actually helped a lot. But the actual strategy is this. If we can't deal any damage to the water elementum, all we're left to do is to minimize the amount of damage it can deal to us by lowering its attacks and healing ourselves constantly. Using high elemental defense Miscrits are also key to the fight. And obviously, I will have to use another relic on one of my Miscrits. This took many more days to figure out which commons have the best chance to pull this off. A lot of detours that ended up being a waste of time as well. A lot of wasted platinum because I decided to plat train those detours. Ultimately, I narrowed it down to these 4 commons that I can use. Spark Speck from the mansion, Bodillo from the jungle, Vepard from the jungle as well, and Nessie from the forest and hidden forest. These 4 all have attack lowering debuffs on them. Besides Spark Speck, all of them also have a healing move. This can help deal with disease, and a decent amount of HP and elemental defense with each other. This still took many more attempts. I even platinum trained them all up and gave them bonuses. Some of them are what I can work with. Ultimately, one single relic decided to completely change the course of this fight. And with that, the water elementum finally blows itself up, and every boss in the jungle has been defeated with only comments. If you enjoyed this video, why not hit that subscribe button? Also give a like for the algorithm. Maybe comment down below if I suck at this video game. Man, I sound like a loser right now. But I do appreciate you guys watching this video. It does mean a lot to me. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.